Imagine standing in a crowded subway and locking eyes with someone who looks fundamentally different. Not just a different ethnicity or a new fashion trend, but a completely different branch of humanity with a chest like a barrel, a heavy brow, and a physical presence that makes everyone else in the room look fragile. What if we weren't the only ones who made it out of the Stone Age, and the world we know today had to be shared with another type of human? For thousands of years, we weren't alone. Our ancestors, the Homo sapiens, shared the Earth with at least half a dozen other human species, but the most formidable among them were the Neanderthals. They were the ultimate survivalists of the North, built to endure the world's deadliest winters and hunt the most terrifying predators of the Pleistocene. While we were still figuring out how to survive the heat of Africa, they were already mastering the frozen landscapes of Europe. But then around 40,000 years ago, they vanished. We usually tell ourselves a story of survival of the fittest, assuming we were just smarter or better. But what if that story is wrong? What if a slight shift in the climate or a different roll of the evolutionary dice allowed them to persist into the modern age? In this alternate 2024, the average human wouldn't exist. Instead, we'd have two distinct biological blueprints. Neanderthals wouldn't just be stronger, they would be biological tanks. With massive lung capacities and dense, heavy bones, they would be naturally adapted for high-intensity environments. In a world where Neanderthals lived among us, our entire infrastructure would have to change. Public seating, doorway heights, and even car safety ratings would need to account for a species that weighs 20 to 30% more than a sapiens, but stands a few inches shorter. Imagine the fashion industry. Top brands would have to engineer entirely different lines of clothing to fit the broad, powerful frames of a Neanderthal consumer. We wouldn't just have small, medium, and large. We'd have sapiens fit and Neander fit. But the real difference wouldn't just be physical, it would be in how we think. Neanderthals actually had brains that were, on average, larger than ours. However, evidence suggests they were wired differently, perhaps favoring incredible visual spatial skills and a deep connection to their immediate social groups over the massive, abstract social networks that Homo sapiens thrive on. Our modern economy would likely reflect this. While sapiens might dominate fields like global logistics, mass marketing, and speculative finance, Neanderthals might be the world's leading architects, surgeons, and engineers, roles that require intense focus, precision, and an intuitive understanding of the physical world. We wouldn't just have one way of solving a problem, we'd have two different types of human consciousness working on the same puzzles. Now let's talk about the uncomfortable reality. Could we actually get along? History shows that Homo sapiens aren't exactly great at sharing with those who are different. A world with two human species would likely have been shaped by centuries of species wars and complex segregation. We might see a world divided by climate zones. Neanderthals, with their superior cold tolerance, might have built the great civilizations of the Arctic and the Himalayas, while sapiens stuck to the tropics. But as technology advanced, our lives would inevitably intertwine. We already know that our ancestors interbred. Most of us carry Neanderthal DNA today. In a world where they didn't go extinct, interspecies families wouldn't be a scientific footnote. They would be the foundation of our modern culture. The medical implications would be staggering. Today we take for granted that a pill works the same for everyone. But with two human species, every doctor would need to be a specialist in two different types of biology. A treatment for a common cold in a sapiens might be ineffective or even dangerous for a Neanderthal. We would have two completely different genetic maps to navigate, leading to a much more complex but perhaps more robust understanding of health. Even our weird habits, like our ancient relationship with alcohol or medicine, would be doubled. Would Neanderthals have the same tolerance for the substances we use? Would their sleep patterns, which were likely tuned to the long nights of northern winters, have survived the invention of the light bulb? We often think of ourselves as the pinnacle of evolution simply because we are the only ones left. But looking at the evidence, Neanderthals were a sophisticated, deeply emotional, and incredibly resilient species. If they had survived, we wouldn't just have a more diverse world. We would have a more humble one. We would be forced to realize that being human isn't just one thing. It's a spectrum. Living alongside Neanderthals would have been the ultimate test of our empathy. It would have forced us to define humanity not by what we look like or how we hunt, but by our ability to coexist with a mind that is as brilliant as ours, yet fundamentally different. If you want to dive deeper into the gritty, gross, and fascinating reality of how our ancestors actually lived, from how they handled hygiene before toilet paper to how they survived the world's most terrifying predators, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, if you could have one Neanderthal trait, whether it's their immense strength or their incredible night vision, which would you choose? Thanks for watching, and stay curious.